All in Sports Network. We love sports.
The Kansas City Chiefs got some great news ahead of their Week 8 Monday Night Football matchup against the Washington Commanders. Welcome into the Chiefs Report, everybody. I'm Jace Andrews. We hope you're having a great Thursday wherever you might be. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Music, hope you are having a great day. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching us live, wherever you might be, we appreciate you hanging out with us and talking some Chiefs football ahead of a very big matchup against a Jaden Daniels Washington Commanders squad. And today, with it being Monday Night Football, Thursday is our first day we get injury reports. So on today's show, we're going to discuss both injury reports for the Kansas City Chiefs and the Washington Commanders, as there was some intriguing factors on both sides. And we're also going to take a look at Andy Reid, who had a press conference today and was asked a multitude of questions on a couple of key Chiefs players. Josh Simmons, one of those, obviously Kareem Hunt. Rashee Rice, was he up to speed last week? Obviously being his first game off of that 6-game suspension. Kind of getting all the latest news surrounding the Chiefs and what exactly the plan is for this week against not Jaden Daniels, I guess, Marcus Mariota and the Washington Commanders. So with all that being said, let's get right into it and talk about this Chiefs injury report. Why don't we? And we start with some good news all around. So the first is that there was only one non-participant in today's practice. That, of course, is Josh Simmons. Now, the story on him is intriguing. And if you don't know, I'll give you a little bit of a rundown. You see, he left the facility like last week, basically. It was kind of an odd situation. He left, didn't really tell anybody. Supposedly, it was for mental health issues. Obviously, wish him the best in all of that and totally understand all this. But we were just trying to get our information. And Andy Reid talked about Simmons, talked about what he was seeing, talked about kind of the latest on him. And we got a little bit of an update, as you can see here if you're watching. Josh Simons' update from Andy Reid said that there is communication and, quote, everything's positive. It's not a negative situation. He is taking care of family, is the statement given by Andy Reid. So for Josh Simmons, he's a very integral part of this team on the offensive line. And whether you don't have him or not, I think is not important right now. What's important is him taking care of his family matters, taking care of his mental health, making sure that he's all good in those rights before we get back to football. It's kind of the old adage. Obviously, they're not student athletes, they're professional athletes, but there's a student before the athlete. Well, there's a person before the athlete in this situation. And you want to make sure that that person is in the right mindset, in the right place. So that way, when they're on the field, they can play to the best of their abilities. And the Chiefs, they've always been a great organization about making sure that these players have a good atmosphere and that if they ever feel they need to do something like this, they're not going to be shunned. They're not going to be, taken away from anything, but rather they're going to be given good agreements, going to be communication, keep everything positive. That's exactly what Andy Reid said. We'll talk more about him throughout today's show and kind of what we think was going to happen, kind of the latest and kind of what the situation could transpire to be. But before that, I do want to get to the rest of this Chiefs injury report and kind of go through it and talk about these players kind of one by one after we finish it all. So guys who are on the injury report. Kareem Hunt, he was on the injury report. He did not practice today. Trey Smith with his back, he did not practice today. I know you're watching, you don't see labels on there, but Andy Reid confirmed to us that both of those guys did not practice. However, Reid did also say that there is good things and that the expectation is for both of them to be available come Monday night against the Washington Commanders. But as of right now, doing their due diligence, they're not going to make them play. And especially for Kareem Hunt's reason, this guy's a long tenured veteran. You're not going to try and escalate the situation, escalate any injury that he might have on the first day of practice. So if you had to ask me, the hope is you can see both Kareem and Trey Smith on Saturday's practice, at least in some aspect, whether it's limited, maybe tomorrow, and then they're a full participant on Saturday. One way or another, hopefully that can all work out. Past that, it was a full participant day for Charles Omenihu. He had an ankle/abdomen injury. This, to me, we didn't get to really ask Andy Reid too much about this, but in my mind, this is really the Chiefs doing their due diligence, say, hey, we're reporting these injuries, we're saying them, we're not going to be keeping them in the dark, because as an NFL team, as an NFL franchise, there are a lot of hard stipulations, and you have to report every single injury, you have to report anything like that so the NFL can monitor it. Past that, Christian Roland Wallace, a cornerback, he has his hand injured. Didn't exactly hear whether he is a full participant, non-participant, limited participant. He doesn't have a designation on the website. And to my knowledge, everything I looked up, there was no official report at the time of this recording. So we're at the time of the stream, if you're watching it live, it's something we'll wait and kind of see. We'll get more information tomorrow and kind of talk about it then. A couple of intriguing guys that were on the injury report but were full participants. Brashard Smith, the running back rookie, done great this season. He's got a toe injury. However, he was a full participant. Jawan Taylor, he has a knee and shoulder injury. However, he was also a full participant today. And then Jerry Tillery, the defensive lineman, need him for obvious reasons given the injury to Norman Lott and making sure that defensive line is in a good spot, especially after we talked about yesterday, the roster move when you placed Norman Lott on that injured list. You brought up a cornerback, so you didn't exactly get any more depth pieces. He was a full participant today, but something to note as he does have an elbow injury listed, and you need him to be fully healthy. Hopefully, he won't be listed on the injury report at all by Saturday, but today he is. And then one last guy, Xavier Worthy, wide receiver, shoulder and ankle injury is the listing. Full participant today, nothing really behind that. For him, it's been something that's been nagging. Obviously, we know the first game of the year and the shoulder that got popped out, and the fact that he's playing right now is in and of itself a very good thing. So obviously lots of good news on that side of things. It seems like the only guy who has maybe a shot to not play in this upcoming Monday Night Football game is Josh Simmons. And those are for obvious reasons why he will not be able to play and kind of work at that. So with that being said, though, I do want to take a quick look at the Washington Commanders and their injury report because they had some positive news of their own today. If you look at the practice report for today, we obviously know that it's not going to be a Jane Daniels game because he's already been ruled out. But there's a lot of other things that have been on their injury report that I want to talk about. Nothing really on like the did not participate guys because a lot of them are rest, like Laramie Tunsil, Darren Payne, Von Miller. Those are all rest along with Zach Ertz. So not going to really worry about that. Their guard, Sam Cosmi, is also a did not participant with a back injury. The expectation, I believe, is for him to not play. But I want to look at the two full participant wide receivers at the bottom of the screen, those being Terry McLaurin and Deebo Samuel Sr. Now, we know that it's going to be Marcus Mariota. We know that he's not going to be the same quarterback that Jane Daniels is. But what can make him be better is good wide receivers out there. And obviously, you never wish for injury. It's not something I'm saying, but you're going to have to face a fully healthy Washington Commanders team besides Jane Daniels, which means these cornerbacks are going to have to play to an elite level, facing off against Terry McLaurin, facing off against Deebo Samuel Jr., Senior. And you're also going to have to worry about Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, the rookie running back, 7th-round guy who's been spectacular for the Washington Commanders. So lots of things to kind of look at when it comes to this injury report. But one thing I note is that you talk about those wide receivers and how you have Deebo Samuel and how you have the ability to put out there Jerry McLaurin as well. And then you go to the Chiefs injury report and you look at the cornerbacks that are injured, Jalen Watson and Christian Roland Wallace. Now they have Noah Williams, and obviously you're fine in that cornerback room with the depth that you have. But it's not something you like to see when your cornerback 2 and Jalen Watson is a limited participant in a game where he's going to have to face off against, I would probably bet they're going to stick him on Deebo Samuel. And so you could also place Shamari Connor and put him in the nickelback, given Deebo will most likely play a good slot, a good percentage of the snaps in the slot. So that's something to watch out for, but not exactly what you want to see in so many aspects. Good news is you have Trent McDuffie. I really like him on deep balls. So Mariota, who does have a very good arm, if he tries to go deep to Terry, I have a very good feeling that we're going to be fine with McDuffie there, and that situation will be in the Chiefs' favor is probably the last thing I should say. All right, so we talked about both injury reports, kind of went through it. I do want to kind of go back quickly to the Commanders injury report just because we talked about Deebo, we talked about Terry McLaurin, and I want to kind of show you why they're so important to this team. So first of all, Terry McLaurin has just played in 3 games in this season, and if we look at those 3 games, he's been a spectacular presence in them. However, he could do a lot better. 27 yards on 2 receptions in the game against the Giants on September 7th. On September 11th, he had 5 receptions for 48 yards, and then the game he got injured, a 41-24 win against Las Vegas. He had 3 receptions for 74 yards. That totals 10 receptions, 149 yards. He has the ability to do much better, and the fact that he's a full participant in practice on day number 1 leads me to believe that he is going to be fully healthy and that he is going to be in a good situation. However, he's not the only one you have to worry about in that. And you go to Deebo Samuel and you kind of look at his game log, and he's played in 3 wins and played in 3 losses. Obviously, here in week number 8 in New York against them, he had 77 yards, but his best game was 2 weeks ago against the Los Angeles Chargers, in which he had 8 receptions for 96 yards. He does have 3 touchdowns on the year. Something to note, he has scored a touchdown in 2 losses and 1 win. And then in obviously the other way around, you have two wins and 1 loss in the games that he has not scored a touchdown. So looking for comparisons, not really seeing too much there, but just something to point out and be aware of. So both of these guys are going to be key integral parts to the Washington Commanders' ability to come out and play the way they want to play against the Kansas City Chiefs. I really am curious how much of an impact they're going to have because, like I've said, the Chiefs cornerback room is something that I do trust a majority of the time. They've had their problems throughout the season, but I look more at the defensive line, especially with the latest injury and not pulling up anybody, and the potential, again, as I mentioned, with the Chiefs injury report. You've also got Jerry Tillery over there, who is, in the injury report. He was a full participant, so the expectation is for him to be ready. But the point being, he has an injury designation. Is not going to be maybe full strength, which, let's be honest with ourselves, when the NFL season starts, is the only full strength game you're going to have. And after the first quarter, that full strength is gone. There's a week in between each game, but you're still feeling everything all throughout the season. It's a lot of comparison in some ways. You try and compare sports, try and look at other ways. And baseball players like to say, you play that first game on full strength, and after that, something's always hurting. It's the same thing for the NFL. You may have a week in advance, and that's why they have the bye weeks to try and help you be as fully healthy as possible. But you feel those hits. I mean, these are like car crashes coming at you. So Jerry Tillery, it's going to be something that he's going to be a rotational piece this week, and a key rotational piece on that interior defensive line with Chris Jones, and trying to make sure that they can, avoid having to look for Omar Norman Lott and him not be there, obviously. So I hope that he's full ready to go, because the defensive line is something that I worry about. But in the same breath, that's exactly why I think Jane Daniels and his injury, although it be bad for them and bad for the game of football, I love watching Jane Daniels. It's a good thing for the Kansas City Chiefs, because that's kind of been their kryptonite. I mean, you talk about the Kansas City Chiefs, you talk about their games and some of the downfalls they've had. You talk about Trevor Lawrence and the game against the Jaguars and how his running ability, his ability to escape the pocket really helped. And you go last week and you think about the quarterbacks that they put out there. And Kenny Pickett is not a guy that has been escaping the pocket in the NFL. And I know that Geno Smith, he had his days, but he is not a guy who gets out of the pocket much. I mean, we know that Chris Jones gets his own a lot, but at the same time, if that quarterback can escape the pocket, it really does come in an extra presence for the team over the Kansas City Chiefs. And so that's something to take note of. I mean, for sure, just to make sure you monitor, make sure you look at. Hopefully, when all this is said and done, most of these injury reports, most of these injuries that I'm talking about, they're not going to matter in some lights, and the Chiefs defensive line will play in the right way. Omar Norman Lott will not be as missed as we need. I do still, however, find it so intriguing, the choice of not getting another defensive lineman, not going out and looking at anybody who could do that. So that's something to note. And then kind of some last things to look at. Josh Simons, want to go back to him just real quick before we take a break here. Josh Simmons, what am I saying? He should be in good, positive light this entire week. Supposedly that he's dealing with family matters, as I mentioned. I am hearing that he will not be playing this Sunday. That's at least my expectation. There's some good vibes on him, and I could be wrong, but overall, from him not being at the facility right now, I know the game's on Monday, but when you want a week of practice, when you want to have that, it's just something to monitor, to watch out for. And for my intensive purposes, I do not see him playing this week. We'll see what happens tomorrow in the injury report and any other updates we might get with him. But overall, that's the one negative in all this, is that you're getting some potential for not to have him. But that's just is what it is, and you're going to have to kind of look at it from an outside perspective and know that he's an offensive lineman, and your offensive line has been pretty solid this year. I believe you got one of the better offensive lines in my mind, and so many different aspects. Obviously, penalties have somewhat been an issue still, but we'll worry about that when it actually happens and occurs. Tell you what, though, we'll take a quick break. We're going to come back. We'll talk about the entire Andy Reid press conference. Going to talk about the offensive adjustments and improvements that Andy Reid mentioned and how those are going to be effective in the upcoming game against the Commanders and so much more. So stick around and we'll be right back here on the Chiefs Report.
Experience the future of secure private cloud storage with Internex. Protect your files with end-to-end encryption, ensuring your data stays private and accessible only to you. Enjoy seamless, fast storage without compromising security. Visit Internex.com today and take control of your digital life. That's INTERNXT.com today. Elevate your experience with Grenco Science, the leaders in cutting-edge vaporizers. Whether you're at home or on the go, our sleek, powerful devices deliver smooth, consistent hits every time. Quality you can trust, innovation you can feel. Grenco Science, take your vapor game to the next level. Visit us at GrencoScience.com. At Terrapin Ridge Farms, they believe in the joy of effortless entertaining. Inspired by CEO Mary O'Donnell's mom and her legendary holiday parties, they've crafted a line of gourmet foods that turn any meal into a celebration. From savory jams to mustards, aiolis, and more, their products are made with love, bringing unforgettable flavors to your table. Whether it's a casual get-together or a special occasion, they make it easy to impress. Terrapin Ridge Farms, where great food and great memories come together. Visit them at terrapinridge.com. Terrapin Ridge.
Do you ever have a story that you just can't get out of your head?
One that you play the details of over and over with your friends?
Well, you've come to the right place. I'm Claire.
And I'm Susan.
And this is Justice Pending,
a weekly true crime podcast where we discuss tantalizing crimes with more questions than answers.
Thanks for joining us.
Cleanse your body of accumulated toxins and embark on your wellness journey at your own pace. At Global Healing, we provide premium supplements to help your body heal naturally. Combine that with OrganicHemp.com's top quality CBD for ultimate balance. Start your healing journey today at GlobalHealing.com and OrganicHemp.com.
Farmhounds offers natural treats and chews made with quality products that support family farms, regenerative agriculture, and humane farming practices. Give your dog the best with wholesome, organic ingredients that promote health and happiness. Shop now at farmhounds.com.
It all began with a simple idea, cutting handles off old ski sticks to create better pull-up bars. This sparked the creation of the revolutionary Angles 90 handles. After testing over 70 prototypes with 300 athletes, our patented handles were launched in 2018. We continue to push the boundaries of strength training. Join us in making your training more natural and effective. Visit Angles90.com to learn more and revolutionize your workout.
Ready to bring your vision to life? At Small Rig, every idea, design, and product is inspired by you, the creator. With our industry-first under co-design mode and the Dream Rig free customization project, we unite with global creators to turn big dreams into reality. Whether it's a cage rig or mount, Small Rig's versatile gear is built to elevate your craft. Small Rig, where your creativity meets our innovation. Go to smallrig.com.
Unlock a world of convenience with Mully Box, your one-stop solution for personalized subscription boxes delivered right to your door. Each box is tailored to your taste. Experience the joy of surprises. Subscribe today at mullybox.com. That's MULLYBOX.com.
Welcome back here to the Chiefs Report. Happy you stuck with us past the break. We got some updates from Andy Reid today talking about a couple of different players, including a star wide receiver that made his return last week. Yes, of course, I am talking about Rashee Rice. But first, I do want to talk about a couple of different things with Kareem Hunt, because that was also something that gave us an update. And I want to kind of round out that injury part of the show. So if we look here, you can see that Andy Reid said that Kareem Hunt, who had a bone bruise on his knee, Trey Smith, who had a lower back spasm, and then obviously Josh Simmons, we've talked about, they're all not practicing, but again, the expectation is for all these guys to be okay. And seems like it's going to be in a good situation for all three of them. Andy proceeded to kind of go on and talk about both Kareem Hunt and Trey Smith, and said that this is something that obviously they're monitoring, but that they believe that both of them should be good to go, should be good to play, and that's a good thing for the Kansas City Chiefs, knowing that Trey Smith, especially with the fact that Josh Emmons is going to be potentially out for this game, you want to have the rest of your offensive line in a very good spot. Want to talk about Rashee Rice, though. I kind of alluded to him just a moment ago, but Andy Reid talked about him and kind of got to a little bit of a notion about what the expectation is for Rashee moving forward. He says that apparently they were about 40% of the offensive snaps last week. We know that because we have the stats, but second of all, it was his first game back from a 6-game suspension. And what people don't tend to realize is with those 6-game suspensions, you don't get to practice with the team. You don't get to be up to speed with the team. You have to be out of the facility. So he didn't get that time to learn new plays. He didn't get that time to build the chemistry back up with Patrick Mahomes. Now, luckily, it's Rashee Rice, and he's played with Patrick Mahomes the past couple of years now. That's not a worry. At least it shouldn't be about chemistry or any such thing like that. Andy talked about it, and he said that he came out feeling good and said that that was positive. But the thing that I want to focus on is the fact that, again, he played in 40% of the snaps this past week against the Las Vegas Raiders. 40% of the snaps. Remember that. Not even half of the snaps in a game in which the Chiefs scored 31 points, and he still had 7 receptions on 10 targets for 42 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, I expect those yards to go up, especially given you're going to have Xavier Worthy streaking down the field so much. Rashee is going to be a nice under route option. Now, we know he's not going to replace Travis Kelce as that kind of basically out route and under route where you're just, safety blanket, but he's still going to have a lot of under routes. And this is such an odd comparison, but I really do want to make it. If you think about the Dallas Cowboys and the way that their wide receiver room is, and I know that CD and George Pickens are widely regarded as a better duo than Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy, and they're widely different receivers than the two. But I look at that and know that George Pickens is a very good deep route receiver, and I know that CD Lamb is a very good receiver to get the ball in his hands and let it work. I see that as a similar way here with Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice. And the difference is Xavier Worthy can go deep. Xavier Worthy can do the under route and have his agility get him through the defense. Rashee Rice, he can go and have his agility make his way work the defense, and he can get those under routes, gets those easy yards, but he can also go deep as well. And so they have kind of both ways they can use both of these guys. And I think that makes the Chiefs just a better team overall. And so the fact of the matter that I'm trying to push here is Rashee Rice was in 40% of the snaps. That's what he was in. And so when you think about all that, when you go through that and think, okay, 40% of snaps, right? Let's just do math here. That means he missed around 50%, just to make the math easy. So you're doubling up at least a little bit of the stats that he had. In theory, he plays all those snaps, and he's not going to play 90%. That's why I say double. You go from 40 to 80. You're talking at that point, if you double the stats too, which it's not the way it works, but 14 receptions for 84 yards. And I'm not going to go touchdown because he played in the red zone. That was the important part of him playing, was being in that red zone area. So I'm not going to double the touchdowns up, but I do think that yardage is going to go up. I think those receptions, I think those targets are going to go up because the way the offense used him last week, and I know they were trying to get him back in rhythm, it was a very good way. And I liked kind of the ideas that Nagy did and was able to work with this Kansas City Chiefs squad. And it's just so funny to me that the Kansas City Chiefs have Andy Reid, and who's such a good coach, such a good offensive mind, and he can run the offense himself. Not saying that, but I really do like the coordinators. I really do. I think Coach Spags is a great DC. Obviously, the offense is running well and works well. And while that may be largely impact to Andy Reid, I do give credit to Nagy and kind of all the intricacies of this offensive coordinating group. And it makes me, very positive. And so that's where I look at, a guy like Rashee Rice and see the growth that he's had in just 2 years now and being a top tier wide receiver. That's where I think about the offense. I think it could be really even more improved. And so I kind of flashed it up on screen if you're watching, but I want to talk about Brashard Smith. Now, he was on the injury report, although it'd be a minor thing. I do want to go and look at this quote from Andy Reid. He talked about Brashard Smith and kind of the expectations and utilizing him because he's been kind of showing out these past 2 weeks. In the receiving room this last week, he was exceptional for many different reasons. But Here's what Andy Reid said, saying, quote, "We've been able to give him a little bit more each week in different roles. We're moving him all over the place. I wouldn't see that part changing. We're going to keep utilizing his talents." And this is where I really like the offensive set and the offensive kind of ideas that Coach Reid is going to have, and why I brought up the coordinators and the ability to have such special offensive plays and coaching. Brashard Smith is such a kind of tantalizing guy, but you wouldn't expect it. I mean, he's been so great using him in so many different positions, so many different lights. And the fact of the matter is, he was a 7th-round pick. I mean, he was near the last pick of the entire draft, round 7, pick 228. And yet, if you look at his stats and you look at what he's done, it's been fantastic. You go back to the past 2 weeks, though, and you see the majority of his growth, especially in the running back room, specifically 14 carries, which was the most by 10 plus carries in this week. He had 22 all season, and now he has, he had 22, including the 14. So you just do some math there. You're talking 8 carries on before this game. He had 39 yards on those carries. So not a great average, about 2.8, but still kind of working in. He is a rookie. And then he had 5 receptions on 5 targets, which first of all is something that I like to see, with the receptions and targets being matched. But also he had 42 yards on those receptions, which was the most by 10 yards in his entire career. His receiving game has been something we've liked. I mean, he has 14 receptions on 18 targets and 122 yards. That's an 8.7 average. You go back to the game against Jacksonville, he had 3 receptions on 3 targets for 32 yards. He's been a very good wide receiver running back, like a receiving back for the Kansas City Chiefs. And the expectation that we just saw from Andy Reid is they're going to use him more. They're going to keep allowing him to be in those right spaces and do the right things. And honestly, I like the mindset that he has, that we're going to keep utilizing his talents. We're going to keep moving him around. We're going to keep using him to the best of his abilities, because he has a lot of abilities. And funny enough, guess what college he went to? Southern Methodist University. Guess who also came from Southern Methodist University? He was a higher pick for sure, but Rashee Rice. And so there's obviously some correlation with those two, and both really young, both exciting and talented guys to have hopefully on the Chiefs for a long time. But you honestly look at this running back room, and the expectations sometimes are a little bit lower just for Isaiah Pacheco than they have been in the past. That's why we've talked on this channel and on this show multiple times about why the Chiefs really should go out and get a running back if they want to fully expect to compete for a Super Bowl this season. But Brashard Smith, as a long-term guy, could fit. And we know that Isaiah Pacheco was a 6th-round pick. And yes, right now he's not looking great, but he's looked great in the past. And the ability to develop Brashard Smith, the ability to develop him into maybe just a receiving back, if that's really what you want out of him, is there. It really is. And his rushing abilities, they're okay. I mean, he had 2 rushes for 13 yards against the Giants. That's his best average at 6.5. But most averages besides that don't get above 4. And I'm a big person on averages, and you're going to learn that about me as you watch and listen along to these podcasts. I like the averages for running backs more than anything else, just because that can tell me if you're fighting for extra yards on every play. That can tell me if you run like Isaiah Pacheco. I mean, I sit here and say he's not playing well, but I really do embody the running backs, and I like the running backs that run and have a play style like Pacheco. And Brashard Smith is not near to that ability, the rough and tough and rumbling through everybody. I mean, that was learned by Isaiah Pacheco at Rutgers, I guess, or wherever he learned that, maybe in high school, just growing up that way. But either way, you see these players, and you can kind of see the development of them. You can see how they can be developed, how they can be used properly, and ultimately how the Kansas City Chiefs can use these players, because we know their offensive capabilities, they're far superior to most other teams just because of the way they've been able to. Well, first of all, they have Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. So that's automatically 2 offensive weapons you have to worry about. And one of them is your quarterback. You also have Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy. And then you add the fact that Pacheco, when he runs well, can do a lot of good things. And Brashard Smith can come out here and be your receiving back. But he can also run the rock and kind of change up those designs, change up those looks, change up those schemes. Obviously, he's been widely used as a receiver rather than a runner. And Andy Reid just said, we're going to keep using him to the best of his abilities, and we believe it's a lot of them. There's a lot of abilities we can use. And so I'm excited to see the growth of Brashard Smith. I'm excited to see how the Chiefs use him, especially this week, just because the past 2 weeks you've seen that growth. Or honestly, you want to go back 4 weeks with receiving, but this week you actually got him 14 rushes out there. And Obviously, that's largely in part to the way that Kareem Hunt, had his game, and he is getting older. So I think Brashard Smith should get some more rushes in general. But besides the point, when it's all said and done, you want to look at Brashard Smith, you want to look at Rashee Rice, and you want to see these guys as people who can come in, and I know it's different situations. Brashard kind of making his role more known, and Rashee coming off the suspension. You hope they can come in here and change this offense and make it even better than it was. And while it wasn't spectacular before, it was pretty good for an NFL average. And now you're looking at these two guys being more capable and used more for various reasons. And you're thinking, man, this is a dang good offense. This is a dang good team. And that seems like that's the way the Chiefs go sometimes. You go back to 2023 when they won the Super Bowl. First game of the year, they lost to the Lions. You thought the sky was falling. Yes, I know they went more on a win streak and they look different than this team, but there's seasons where you lose games you really shouldn't. You think about it and you look at the record, you're like, well, we're fine. The difference this year and the reason people aren't checking us out even more is because the division is so much better this season. It's because the Chargers look good. It's because the Broncos look good. But if you go there, you beat the Broncos, you beat the Chargers, you already beat the Raiders. Changes up a lot of things. Really, really does. And you're going to get better, and you're going to face these guys for either the first or second time here coming up. And you go out there, you win, shuts all that down, puts the Chiefs back out in a, we're a top tier effort. I think that's all we got for you here today. Obviously, lots of updates throughout the afternoon, and the injury reports widely are the biggest thing for the Monday Night Football game, specifically watching Trey Smith, Kareem Hunt. Seems as though Debo and Terry McLaurin, obviously being full participants, should be good to go. So we'll keep everything updated. We'll have another show talking about the injury reports tomorrow, kind of go in depth on a couple other places, and maybe look at some trades as well. So thanks for watching or listening wherever you might be. We hope you have a great rest of your night, rest of your evening. And for now on, we'll say peace out here from Chiefs Report. See you guys.
All in Sports Network. We love sports.